Welcome back. So in this session, we will be discussing about NF4, that is fourth normal form. In previous classes, we discussed about uh, first normal form, second, third, BCNF and all. The fourth normal form rule is it should be in BCNF and it should not have any multi-value dependency. That is the rule of fourth normal form. If the table is in fourth normal form, it should not have any multi-value dependency. If you're having dependency means your column is depends on the second column, third column, and so on and so forth. Multi-value dependency means so multiple column depends on single column. So if that is the case, it should not be in the fourth. It is not in fourth enough. To make that, we have to avoid or eliminate that multi-valued dependency. That is what the fourth enough. So the first condition is the to be in 4NF, the table must be in PCNF. To be in BCNF, it should be in 3NF, 2NF, 1NF ultimately. Okay, so let's move on. So the first rule is it should be in BCNF. What is BCNF? A stricter form of 3NF. What is 3NF? There should not be have any transitive dependency. X is X tends to Y tends to Z. That should not be the case. That is the transitive dependency. So it should be in a stricter 3NF, that is BCNF, and it should not have the multi-value dependencies. So consider these three attributes. So columns of a table. A is one column, B is another column, C is another column. So A depends on B and A depends on C, which means B and C depends on A. C doesn't depends on B. B doesn't depend on C. Okay, so both B and C depends on A. So this is called as multi-value dependency. If this is the case, it should be eliminated. How to eliminate? We can make A and B in one column, one table, and A and C in another table. Because A is a column or attribute which is having relation with the B and C, a dependency with the B and C. So that is what the multi-value A is having two values dependency, multi-value dependency. So that is what the condition. So let's see. Yeah, the same thing in relation A B C. So A is depending on, B is depends on A, C depends on A. So that should be avoided or eliminated. So multi-value dependency. Okay, so B and C is independent to each other. That is ultimately. If that is the case, you can split the table into two new tables. So A and B in one table, A and C in the other table. So let's see with the simple example. Right, so consider this student table. Student table is having three attributes: student ID, student course, student hobby. Okay, and here student ID depends on course. Course depends on student ID, and hobby also depends on the student ID. But course and hobby are independent. So A, B, C. So B depends on A, C depends on A. So B and C are independent. So course and hobby are independent. Okay. So what can we do? So student ID and course in one table, student ID and the hobby in another table. So A and B in one table, A and C in another table. That is what, very simple. So this kind of multi-value dependency in the attributes is removed, eliminated by decomposing the table into two tables. So again, these two tables are having a common A, that is student ID. Okay, A and B in one table, A and C in the other table. So this is how the multi-value dependency can be eliminated. So now the table is in the fourth normal form. Okay, so that's it about the fourth normal form. Thank you all.